Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Bhakti Fundamentals. Today we return with part 3 of our question and answer session, Defining Bhakti Yoga. In our first session of this series, we addressed misconceptions about the purpose of the yoga system and examined how Bhakti Yoga is intrinsic to us. To practice it is actually natural for us. Meanwhile, in our second session, we tackled the misconception that Bhakti Yoga is merely blind sentiment or faith. Instead, we discussed how Bhakti Yoga is a spiritual science capable of being replicated and complete with stages of hypothesis, experimentation, and a data analysis phase from which we may draw conclusions about our practice. Today, we explore Bhakti Yoga as an art, specifically the art of harmonizing or dovetailing our everyday lives with the Supreme by inviting Krishna into our personal lives and connecting everything in our lives to Him. During the Christmas season, many people invite their family members to their homes for celebrations and reunions. We all seek personal connection to other people. This is natural because we are persons. But where do our personalities derive from? Our unique personalities originate from the Supreme Absolute Truth, who also happens to be the Supreme Person, Krishna. Like us, Krishna has names, qualities, likes and dislikes, though his qualities are unlimited and supreme. And like us, Krishna seeks personal relationships. And thus, in Bhakti Yoga, we also invite Krishna, the Supreme Person, into our homes and personal lives. And not just for special occasions or holidays, but at all times, to be the center of our lives. Therefore, Bhakti Yoga is as much a spiritual science as it is an art. The art of interacting with Krishna, the Supreme Lord, in a deeply personal way. It is the practice of creatively engaging with the Supreme Absolute Truth on an individual level in our everyday lives. This engagement will look slightly different for everyone, as each of us has unique talents, inclinations, careers, and life circumstances. This diversity reflects the fact that we're all unique persons, yet the overarching principle remains the same: to somehow link our lives to Krishna, making him the center of all we do. We actually already take Krishna everywhere we go. Recall that the Supreme resides in our hearts and the heart of every living entity in his form as Paramatma, or Supersoul. As Paramatma, the Supreme is with us at all times and patiently waits for us to turn toward him and engage in his service. So Krishna is always with us in our hearts. However, before we take up spiritual practices that remind us of Krishna, we often don't remember him in our daily lives. In Bhakti Yoga, however, we make a conscious effort to keep Krishna in our thoughts. A key part of this practice is consciously inviting Krishna into every aspect of our lives, beginning with our homes. This is not unlike inviting a close friend over to our house. And our homes are particularly special places. It's very personal to invite someone into our homes. When we invite Krishna into our homes, we consciously welcome the Supreme into our most intimate space, where we unwind and relax. Instead of perceiving the Supreme as being confined to the temple or church, if we consciously invite him into our homes, we can experience his presence just as powerfully and profoundly in our homes as we do in those designated sacred spaces. Remember that in Bhakti Yoga, we are attempting to yoke or connect back to Krishna, the Supreme, through bhakti, or loving devotional service. and service implies activity. Bhakti Yoga is active. It is not passive. In fact, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada would often refer to Bhakti Yoga as a cultivation of devotional service to Krishna and a cultivation of our already existing relationship with the Supreme, with Krishna. In his introduction to Nectar of Devotion, one of his books, he wrote, "Devotional service is a sort of cultivation. It is not simply inaction for people who like to be inactive or devote their time to silent meditation. There are many different methods for people who want this, but cultivation of Bhakti Yoga is different. As soon as we say cultivation, we must refer to activity. Without activity, consciousness alone cannot help us." The word cultivation is a nice one to use. If we look it up in the dictionary, we find the following definitions. The act of preparing land and growing crops on it, or the act of growing a particular crop. The act of trying to develop and improve something. The act of making a special effort to establish and develop a friendship. All of these definitions actually work for our purposes today. Consider a garden. We nurture it through regular weeding, watering, and monitoring of the plants. Similarly, although the Supreme resides within our hearts, if we don't actively engage in our relationship with Him, it will stagnate. It will fail to flourish, much like flowers in a garden that wither without consistent care and attention. Inviting the Supreme into our home is a method to give life to our personal relationship with Him. It's very personal to invite someone into our homes. And when we invite the Supreme in, He reciprocates, aiding us in deepening our understanding and connection with Him. So we'll begin our talk on harmonizing our lives with the Supreme with a discussion on how we can invite Krishna into our homes. So just how do we do this? How do we invite the Supreme into our homes? When beginning to cultivate our relationship with Krishna and inviting Him into our homes, start with the 3 C's. 1, cooking for Krishna. 2, creating a home altar space. And 3, chanting the names of the Supreme. And we'll break each of these down next, starting with 1, cooking for Krishna. It turns out that just as we would for visiting family or friends, we can lovingly cook for Krishna and offer Him the meals that we prepare. In the Bhagavad Gita, we learn that Krishna accepts only vegetarian food items that we offer to Him. And so, in Bhakti Yoga, we cook only vegetarian food items and then offer those preps to Krishna with as much love as we can muster. These offered meals are then known as prasadam, a term that signifies mercy, the mercy of Krishna. And this conscious cooking process involves preparing all the ingredients, washing, cleaning, and chopping them, with Krishna in mind, intending the meal for Him first. And then, after cooking, we offer a prayer up in which we formally present the meal to Krishna, humbly offering it to Him with love. This is akin to serving a meal to a beloved friend in our home. Now, by inviting Krishna to partake of our meal first, before we ourselves do, we spiritualize both the act of cooking and the food that we've prepared. The food then becomes sanctified. By Krishna's mercy, it's transformed into prasadam, spiritualized food. And consuming such sanctified food is not merely an act of eating. We actually make spiritual advancement when we consume such spiritualized food. It purifies our consciousness. Next, our second C, creating a home altar space. We can also create a little home altar for Krishna, a space in our homes that reminds us of him. This can be as simple as the top of a side table or other piece of furniture, and we can place paintings of Krishna on it and perhaps add some decorative items like flowers if we wish. It can be as ornate or simple as we like. Your altar can be even one small framed painting of Krishna. But the simple action of having a designated altar space has big returns. It will transform the energy in your home into a spiritual one. At your home altar, you can pray or engage in mantra meditation, or if it's large enough, even offer your food preparations to Krishna there. Having a place where you offer your vegetarian food preps to Krishna is another reminder that we've invited him into our home, and he now resides here also. Setting aside an altar space for Krishna is akin to providing a guest with a comfortable spot, a designated space to sit down and relax in your home. Again, the altar doesn't need to be fancy or ornate. It just needs to be heartfelt. Krishna accepts our sincere love. That's all he's looking for. Remember, you can always grow into a larger altar, so feel free to start with something small and simple. If you already have a home altar, you might think of ways to expand it some, or to adorn it, perhaps with flowers or more devotional paintings or attractive rechargeable candles, etc. The beauty of having a home altar is that it serves as a constant reminder of Krishna throughout the day. Each time you walk by it, you naturally think of him. In this way, creating a small home altar is a powerful way to spiritualize your home and invite Krishna in. Now on to our third C. Once our guest is comfortably seated, we may sit down and converse with them. With the Supreme, this may take the form of revealing our hearts to Krishna in prayer. Vandanam, or prayer, is actually one of the 9 processes of Bhakti Yoga by which we make spiritual advancement. But in Bhakti Yoga, we also have the powerful spiritual practice of kirtanam, which involves, among other things, speaking or chanting the names of the Supreme. In Bhakti Yoga, we chant the Maha Mantra shown up on screen. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And we chant this mantra in the form of personal mantra meditation, wherein we chant aloud on our own while using beads to count our repetitions, or in a group with others, but it's a personal mantra meditation. Or we can chant it in kirtan, which is mantra meditation set to music and typically performed in the uplifting company of others in a group setting. Chanting the Maha Mantra is a fundamental daily practice in Bhakti Yoga. If we think about it, speaking someone's name is one of the most personal ways of addressing them, as it acknowledges their individuality and presence. Similarly, when we speak Krishna's names, we are personally interacting with him, acknowledging his presence in our lives. Chanting his names is not just a practice, it's a direct connection with the Supreme Person, Krishna. In several of our sessions, we've explored the many reasons why chanting the names of the Supreme in a regulated manner, known as mantra meditation, is such a significant devotional practice. One of the reasons is that the Maha Mantra is comprised entirely of the names of the Supreme, Hare, Krishna, and Rama. And Krishna is fully present in his names. As a result, chanting his names is profoundly purifying. It gradually erodes our material consciousness, our false identification with the material body and mind, and replaces that with spiritual consciousness. Spiritual consciousness means becoming aware of who or what we actually are, individual souls, and recognizing our eternal relationship with our source, the Supreme, or Krishna. Thus, chanting the Maha Mantra helps us to uncover our eternal relationship with the Supreme. So these 3 C's are powerful ways in which we invite Krishna into our homes. They are 3 initial ways in which we add him to our daily home living. But what about other aspects of our lives? What about our belongings, talents, or careers? How can we connect these to Krishna as well? This just takes some creativity. At the beginning of the class, we noted that Bhakti Yoga is the art of harmonizing or dovetailing our everyday lives to the Supreme. The process or art of dovetailing is the way in which we relate to Krishna on a personal level and link him to all aspects of our lives. And the 3 C's we went over are 3 very powerful initial ways in which we can dovetail our home life to the Supreme. The word dovetail is actually a particularly apt and meaningful term for this session. If we look up its definition, it means to fit or cause to fit together easily and conveniently. Synonyms for dovetail include harmonize, correspond, and to be in agreement. We use an image from the woodworking world to represent the topic of dovetailing. That's actually a dovetail joint on screen. And dovetail joints are one of the strongest joints in carpentry. They are woodworking seams that connect 2 pieces of wood by fitting them in with one another, in a way that is similar to connecting 2 puzzle pieces. The end of one piece of wood is complementary to the other, creating an interlocking corner. And this is how we want our lives to be with the Supreme. We want our lives to interlock with the Supreme seamlessly. In Bhakti Yoga, we don't need to abandon our lives as we know them or reject what we own or do for a living, unless those possessions or actions are in the mode of ignorance and lower our consciousness. In such cases, some adjustments may be necessary. For the most part, however, Bhakti Yoga is about finding ways to connect our current lives to Krishna. We don't reject, we connect. Thus, in Bhakti Yoga, we continue to work and have families and own items like cars, houses, computers, etc. But we shift our consciousness around these aspects of our lives. We see our family members as ultimately belonging to Krishna, and we view our family life, career, and possessions as opportunities to serve Krishna. With this perspective, we find meaningful ways to dedicate our family and career lives, as well as everything we own and do, to Krishna's service. For example, our home can become a sacred space for devotional activities shared with the entire family. We can engage our children in chanting with us or reading the Bhagavad Gita with us. And we might invite friends or extended family to join us in these practices. Maintaining a home altar, as we discussed earlier, creates a central focus for our spiritual endeavors in the home. Even simple tasks like cleaning or painting our homes can take on a devotional dimension when performed with the consciousness that Krishna resides in our home also. In this way, cleaning the house becomes like cleaning a temple, transforming an ordinary chore into an act of love and service to the Supreme. Meanwhile, we use our cars to pick up grocery items that are then transformed into delicious vegetarian meals lovingly offered to Krishna and subsequently shared as sanctified food prasadam with everyone in our home. Or we might use our cars to drive to the local Bhakti Yoga center to attend programs, or to commute to and from our workplace, which helps maintain our livelihood. Even trips to the doctor can be seen in the light of devotional service. In Bhakti Yoga, there's the concept of direct and indirect devotional service. Direct devotional service includes activities like chanting the Maha Mantra, reading the Shastra or scriptures like the Bhagavad Gita, cooking meals for Krishna. Meanwhile, indirect devotional service involves maintaining our lives and health so that we can continue serving Krishna. Whether we are commuting to work, dropping our kids off at school, or attending to our health, when we connect these actions that we must perform anyway to Krishna, then they become part of our devotional service to Him. Things like our laptops or iPads can be used in service to Krishna too. For example, we can watch lectures on Bhakti Yoga, search for recipes to prepare meals for Krishna, or pay our bills. Even paying bills can be a form of devotional service when done with the consciousness of maintaining a home where devotional practices like chanting, cooking for Krishna, or hosting a Bhakti Yoga program take place. Just as with going to the doctor, activities or items that might seem mundane at first glance can become spiritualized when linked to Krishna's service. Every item we own, when used in our devotional service or to support our spiritual lives, becomes spiritualized and contributes to our connection with the Supreme. In Bhakti Yoga, we also use our natural abilities and interests as ways to connect with Krishna. For instance, if we enjoy listening to music, we might include some kirtan, mantra meditation set to music, into our listening playlist. If we like to play instruments, why not try playing them in kirtans held with friends? If we enjoy reading, we can set a goal of reading a little from the Bhagavad Gita or other spiritual texts every day. For those who love to draw or paint, we can create art that depicts Krishna and his associates or devotees, or scenes from his pastimes, his activities. If writing is our talent, we might compose poetry, reflections, or even songs that glorify Krishna. If we enjoy cooking, we might experiment with making new vegetarian dishes to offer to Krishna. If gardening is a hobby of ours, we can try growing flowers to place on our altar, or vegetables to be used in our food offerings to Krishna. If we like taking walks, we can bring our meditation beads with us and chant the Maha Mantra as we walk. If we like traveling, we can visit the various Bhakti Yoga temples in the cities we visit and connect with the practitioners there. If we like teaching or public speaking, we might start hosting programs at our home and teach people about Bhakti Yoga. Because everyone is a unique individual, each person has different talents, inclinations, and interests. This is where the art of Bhakti Yoga really comes in. Bhakti Yoga is the art of creatively connecting what we already own or what we naturally enjoy doing, our interests and abilities, to Krishna, transforming our daily activities into acts of devotional service. Our work and the money we earn can also be used in Krishna's service. While we should avoid work in the mode of ignorance, such as jobs that involve harming others like being a butcher, most professions can be dovetailed in service to Krishna. As we discussed previously, we can use our work income to maintain our home, which is where we end up performing many of our devotional activities like chanting, cooking for Krishna, hosting programs to share Bhakti Yoga with others. In this world, we all have to work to meet our responsibilities, but we can shift our consciousness around our work by intentionally using the results of our work, our money, and any recognition we receive in Krishna's service. By working for Krishna, instead of just for ourselves or our boss or for material gain, our job then becomes more than just a means to earn a living. It becomes an integral part of our spiritual practice. When we consciously dedicate the results of our work to Krishna, then our work becomes spiritualized. In this way, even our professional lives become connected to the Supreme, transforming our career work into devotional service to Krishna. The key is to shift our consciousness around the activities we already enjoy doing or must do. By incorporating Krishna into our daily activities and our hobbies and talents, we naturally harmonize our lives spiritually. Dovetailing our lives to Krishna really comes down to our consciousness while we go about our lives. Bhakti Yoga gives us the spiritual intelligence to figure out a way, guided by our teachers or gurus, and the other Bhakti Yoga practitioners, and the Gita and other Bhakti texts, to connect the things in our lives back to the Supreme. In the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, verse 65, Krishna says, "Always think of me, become my devotee, worship me and offer your homage unto me. Thus you will come to me without fail. I promise you this because you are my very dear friend." In this verse, Krishna provides the ultimate focus for our consciousness. Before practicing Bhakti Yoga, we may find ourselves acting primarily for our own benefit or striving to please others, our parents, our children, our teachers, our employers, etc. Whatever the motivation, the truth is we are always serving someone. So why not serve the Supreme, Krishna? When we serve Him, everyone else in our lives, our family members and others, are also cared for and receive immense benefit. Serving the Supreme is like watering the root of a plant instead of trying to water each individual leaf. By nourishing the root, all the leaves, which represent our relationships and everything else in our lives, are effortlessly nourished as well. It's in our best interest to serve Krishna. Everything in our lives is already provided by the Supreme. And when we consciously offer these things back to Krishna in a mood of rendering devotional service to Him, then we complete the circle. What comes from the Supreme is offered right back to Him, leading to true harmony and fulfillment in our lives. Something to keep in mind is that in Bhakti Yoga, the art of dovetailing our lives with Krishna, it's not the size or grandeur of our offerings to Him that matters. It's the consciousness behind them. Krishna doesn't measure the quantity of what we offer Him in service. He values the sincerity and love with which we offer it. Krishna appreciates every effort we make to connect with Him. Bhakti Yoga is the art of transforming even the most seemingly ordinary aspects of our lives into transcendental acts of devotional service. It is the art of changing matter into spirit by just shifting our consciousness from material to spiritual. By practicing the art of Bhakti Yoga, we weave Krishna into the fabric of our daily lives, not merely acknowledging His presence in our lives, but making Him the central focus of our lives. He is, after all, the source of everything in our lives. By serving Krishna via the 9 processes of Bhakti Yoga, we create a life that is spiritually rich and harmonious with who we actually are. Individual spirit souls meant to engage in devotional service to the Supreme, to Krishna. Bhakti Yoga gives our lives true purpose, as it aligns our everyday actions with our true identity. And we're not alone as we do this. Krishna is always present in our hearts as Paramatma, ready to reciprocate with even our smallest efforts to connect with Him. And through this personal, loving reciprocation with Him that unfolds in time throughout our devotional lives, we eventually fully uncover our eternal relationship with Him. This seamless integration of Krishna into our lives is real art, spiritual art, the art of Bhakti Yoga. So this wraps up today's discussion on Bhakti Yoga as an art, the art of harmonizing our everyday lives with the Supreme by inviting Krishna into our personal lives, beginning with our homes, and then creatively connecting everything we do and have to Him. to practically apply what we've discussed, try starting with the 3 C's that we mentioned earlier today: cooking for Krishna, creating a home altar space, and chanting the Maha Mantra a set amount daily. From there, you can expand by exploring other ways to connect what you're already doing or what you enjoy doing to Krishna. If you have any questions or need any guidance on this, please don't hesitate to reach out. We'd love to hear from you. You can always leave a comment on this video or email us anytime at bhaktifundamentals@gmail.com. In the meantime, thank you for listening today, and we'll see you next time on Bhakti Fundamentals.